Hi everyone, today we're going to take a look at distributive property. I know you are familiar with that. You did that in 6th grade and we've also done that on the warm-ups. But I want to take a look at some examples with negatives that can be a little bit tricky. So our first example, is pretty typical of what you're used to seeing. You're taking 12 times x minus 4, and usually you see this as a reminder of how to distribute. We take 12 times x minus 12 times 4. Okay, so that is pretty simple. But let's take a look at some negatives and just make sure that we're doing those correctly. Remember, when you're doing distributive property, you're taking 12 times each term, which we've been talking a lot about. So I'm taking 12 times x, and I'm taking 12 times negative 4. 12 times x is 12x. 12 times negative 4 is negative 48. And you can see that's how I end up with 12x minus 48. But let's look at this one. We are taking negative 8 times y. And we're also taking negative 8 times positive 12. So here's where you have to be careful. Negative 8 times y is negative 8y. Negative 8 times 12 is negative 96. So when we put this back together, we have negative 8y minus 96. Okay, so let's look at that without the multiplication chart here. If we were doing it this, negative 8 times y is negative 8y plus negative 8 times 12, which is negative 96. All right, so those are equivalent, okay, but just to help you with the negatives. Let's look at the last example. Here we have a negative in front of a set of parentheses, so let's rewrite that. That really means negative 1 times 1x minus 11. So there's a lot of that identity property here. If you see a plain x, remember that's the same as 1x, and if I see a negative in front of parentheses, that's like having negative 1. So let's do the long way here just to make sure we understand it. All right, I'm taking 1x, and then I have a negative 11. So negative 1 times 1x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 11, remember negative times negative is positive 11. So when I put that back together, I end up with negative 1x plus 11. Okay, that's the tricky part. A lot of people right there miss that plus sign. So you want to be careful with that. Let me just show you again without the multiplication chart. You're taking negative 1 times 1x, which is negative 1x. But then remember, this is like a term here, so you're really taking negative 1 times negative 11, which is why you get positive 11. All right, so I'd like you to try some problems on the worksheet, and you can check your work with that. I know this is a long way, but it does help you to understand exactly what is getting multiplied, and also to be careful with these signs. So good luck.